Hey, folks. Hi, friends. Big news today. Curious news that Bachman-Turner-Overdrive is coming back. There was a statement from Rent. Oh, I was wondering what the heck was that? It's the commercial. I'm looking out my window going, what's making that noise? Bachman-Turner-Overdrive is officially coming back in what form? I don't think anybody really knows right now. I've talked to someone on the inside, and let me just turn off my email. Hold on, because that keeps coming up. Quit. I've talked to someone on the inside, and it looks like we don't know if Fred Turner is coming back, who sang half the songs, right, along with Randy Bachman. Blair Thornton, I had heard Blair Thornton and Randy Bachman hadn't talked in years. So that dog was, as they say, that dog won't hunt. I don't think that was ever going to work. So who knows? There could be reconciliation. Fred Turner has retired. So will he come back? The word I'm getting is it's Randy Bachman with his son, Tal Bachman, at the very least. They are two Bachmans, and they do play together, and, you know, they've had their differences, I think, as father and son, as most father and sons have. And they've sort of reconciled, and they played together, seem to get along really, really well. When last time of my 3 interviews with Randy, he said that he was really excited about playing with Tal again, with the Bachman and Bachman thing. And why not now? I mean, things have changed in the Bachman world, right? I mean, most people call the band Bachman-Turner-Overdrive, but their name is actually pronounced, and he corrected it for us. Not that I was getting it wrong, but in the beginning I was. But, of course, Robbie Bachman, the drummer, passed away January 12th. He was 69 years old. And then, of course, Tim Bachman, who had left the band and come back. He left the band early. He was 71 years old. He passed away on April 28th. And as far as I know, Robbie sort of owned the name. Or there was something about Robbie doing something if he wanted to do something first. At one point, when I talked to Randy Bachman live on the air here in Calgary at a station called The Breeze, he sort of insinuated that the parents were involved, saying, well, you got to give your brothers something, right? And I'll clarify that next time. I just reached out to Randy in his camp, see if he wants to do an interview. I think it's really, really good news. I mean, you at the very least have to have Randy Bachman in this band, right? But secondly, right behind him is Fred Turner, CF Turner, as he used to go by. I'm going to show you what Randy put up today. Hold on. This is what he put. That's harkening back to the original logo from the first album. But this is kind of what he put out. Bachman-Turner-Overdrive. I would think that would insinuate Fred Turner's coming back. It doesn't mean that, because a lot of the times with a band will keep a band the name, because that's what. I'll read your comments in a second, guys. This is what he put out this morning. BTO is back after many decades, selling millions of records and multi-platinum and #1 records. Bachman-Turner-Overdrive is back in gear for Back in Overdrive Tour. August 18th in Arnold's Park in Iowa. September 22nd in West Springfield, Massachusetts. Get your tickets. He wrote, BTO is back with all the hits. You ain't seen nothing yet. Taking care of business. Let it ride. Roll on down the highway, hey you. We see Roll on down the highway. That's like Fred Turner, right? Four-wheel drive, that's for Fred, if I remember correctly. Look it up for #1. That's Randy. Plus other hits by architects of Canadian rock. Randy Bachman, American Woman, These Eyes, Undone, No Time, No Sugar Tonight. New Mother Nature. Man, I love New Mother Nature a lot. We just saw Burton Cummings in concert a week ago. Unfortunately, the people who were sitting beside us didn't stop talking the whole concert. 2 really big guys. Like, I was going to come up to those big guys and say, why are you here? I felt like saying it. So anyway, from the inside, I've heard, and I hope my source is correct, that it will at the very least right now be Tal Bachman, who is Bachman, and Randy. Some folks on Facebook have said things like, well, I hope it's not BTO with Randy Bachman and the Bachman backup band, right? And I'd still go to that, though. I'd still go to that. I got to get Randy back. I just communicated or emailed their people, and Randy's usually pretty good, because whenever I do an interview with Randy Bachman, he always shares it on his own page. which is really, really nice. Most artists don't do that. Let me read your comments. Melody R. Hey, Melody, nice to talk to you. Hey, Jason Free. BTO hasn't made an album since the 80s, yeah. Ronnie Parker. Hello, John. That's awesome to hear. I think it's a great... Randy Bachman's there, I'll go. And he will be. Slaphead. Love Randy Bachman. One of the true talents of rock history. Wanda Wainsworth. Taking Care of Business. My fave song. Yep. Mike M. Didn't Fred Turner retire? He did, as we mentioned off the top. It doesn't mean, like, how big is the tour? They could say we're going to do it for 2 years. I'm hypothetical here. But they could say we'll do something for 2 years and Fred will do a show every couple of weeks. I don't know. And maybe he's okay. There was someone who just, Genesis and a whole bunch of other people, but David Henschel, who worked with Richard Perry and Genesis, someone just emailed me something to pass along to David Henschel, for instance. This is an example of this. And David was, and this person didn't know how to get a hold of David Henschel. I have his personal email address because I've emailed him and I've talked to him a few times. But I know that David's retired. He's not producing any more Genesis albums. There's no more Genesis anyway. But he was on a beach when I got a hold of him. He says, John, I'll just get back to this guy. Thanks for forwarding this. But there's a reason that his email gets bounced back on the David Henschel website because he's retired. He likes to keep it up there to show people what he's done. Why not? It's like a trophy. It's a good thing. Then this guy kept texting me back and forth saying he's not getting back to me. And then I had to tell him, he's retired. So some people, when they're retired, they're done. David Henschel's done. He's done great work. Produced some of my favorite Genesis albums. But it doesn't mean that Fred Turner is not getting the bug again. I hope Fred's involved. I really, really, really hope Fred's involved. Remember when Jim Clench, after Randy Bachman left BTO, remember he played bass and sang on 2 albums for BTO. And I talked to Jim Clench a few years before he died about it. The only problem he had with the band was, what's their manager's name? Big manager from Vancouver. My name, it'll come back to me. One of you guys hold on. More comments. Yes, Mike M. So we don't know about Fred Turner. James McKinley. Hi, John. Great news. Any inclination is the reunion for an album or just a few shows? Most of the time, at the very least, you just know it's shows. It's always guaranteed shows because that's where they make their money, right? But I like the fact that they used the early incarnation, even though I didn't use it on the logo. I used the classic BTO emblem on the logo. They used like the first album. Die Bashir, Tremendous, Slaphead. So many great songs, really. When I do Canadian bands on this channel, there's not too many times where it'll spark a lot of interest because the majority of our channel, 90% of rock history music is supported by the US. And everything I've ever done, a streaming radio station, back then was 95% US. So I don't put a lot of, but when I put a Canadian channel, like a Canadian band like the Guess Who or Bachman-Turner-Overdrive, that's a different thing because they really crossed over, right? And even April Wine, but not so much. D. Bashir. Yeah, Fred is underrated. No Easy Way. Don't do a show in Canada first. Slaphead. Well, I told you where the shows are. Let me bring that up for you again if you're just joining on. The shows are in Iowa at Arnold's Park, August 18th, and in Massachusetts, West Springfield, September 22nd at the Big E. And then the first one is Arnold's Park Amusement Park. So I think they're testing the water. It's obviously a soft opening to bring back a band. But because the other Bachman boys have passed away, I'm sure that now Randy can use the name again. It kind of looks that way, right? So Robbie Bachman, the drummer, died January 12th of this year. He was 69. And Tim Bachman was 71 years old. He died this year as well. He was on April 28th. So there were a lot of people talking about that while we were, hold on, let me come back here. And there's the original, look, that's like remnants of the early BTO, Bachman-Turner-Overdrive in steel, right? Something about that was nice. And of course, a little Canadian make-believe there to let the world know they're Canadian. And read some of your comments again. John Harrell, did I forget anybody here? Slaphead. Guess Who and BTO have many great songs, and they would be playing songs from both because, of course, Randy was in the early part of Guess Who. Came back for a few reunions. John Harrell, Not Fragile was my favorite record in fifth grade. Not Fragile is considered by many their best album. Alan Murphy, by the way, what was your reaction when Ultimate Classic Rock started your videos on their page? Oh, they've been doing it for quite a long time. And they've never asked, and they don't have to ask. If someone uses if they put my actual video on there and write a story about it, it's real. Ultimate Classic Rock is my favorite app on my phone. Ultimate Classic Rock is the only website that I go to every single day. And if this sounds like a commercial, it's not meant to. But when they evolve, and other magazines have, I'm thinking about 20 different magazines have used our stuff, but every single one will put our video on because they know, well, they won't be mad because I'm giving them hits on their video, and that's fine. That's. But Ultimate Classic Rock has a special. I read every one of their stories, even with artists I don't care about. Well, especially for me, because it's my interest to know those artists. If I don't care about them, there's a good chance I don't know that much about them, or I should know more. So that's Alan. That's what. So I'm really flattered they do that. Leonard Krupski, BTO's records were some of the first I bought in high school. Oh, cool. Darren, you took off your Melody R, Blue Monin, Alan Murphy. Yeah, Bruce Allen. Bruce Allen's the guy I'm talking about. Brian Adams, yeah. Splatter, Bob Rock. Seattle Bicycler. Well, it can't, a lot of people are going to say that. It can't be BTO, Bachman-Turner-Overdrive without Fred Turner. I mean, I would love for Fred to come back. If he comes back, then that means I'll probably get an interview with Fred. I mean, I'm sure Randy could have hooked me up, but I'll like I said, I reached out to Randy Bachman's camp. Just so that people know that watch this channel on a regular basis, we've reached out to Timothy B. Schmidt, Peter Frampton, Lindsey Buckingham, people we haven't heard back from just this morning, Randy Bachman. I'm sure we'll get an interview with Randy again because I don't want to sound presumptuous, but he always shares our stuff. And we always seem to have really good interviews, right? I call him a crunchy guy. We have friends like that where you get into like crunchy, interesting stuff together, right? And Randy's just probably the best for that, where he's just an interesting man. So, Bruce Allen, thanks, Alan. Darren, Melody R, BTO will do a cover of Peter Gabriel's song. Just kidding. Yeah, Sledgehammer. RJDAC. Hope it's not another Guess Who type cover band. Even with Fred and Randy, there's no Robbie. No Easy Way. Seattle Bicyclet. Can't be Bachman-Turner-Overdrive without Fred. Tony Stevens. Is Fred back? Everyone is asking the same question. Blair Thornton, from what I'd heard, and it's not a reliable source, but a few people have told me that Blair and Randy aren't close anymore. And Blair hasn't been involved in the reunions, right? And it seems that Randy was insinuating that his parents wanted him to give the Bachman-Turner-Overdrive name, or at least BTO, to Robbie, the drummer who just passed away. And now he's the both brothers that were involved in it are no longer here, so I'm sure we can use the name again. And even when BTO got back together, it was Gary Peterson at one point drumming with them, the Guess Who drummer, who I just interviewed a few weeks ago. So there you go, Mark Burchett. Hey, John. Hi, Mark. How you doing, buddy? Kim Trickle. Hi, Kim. Always nice to have you on here. Big supporter of our channel. Vaughn Hogan. Basis is correct. Fred is the most underrated. Rod Price from Foghat was another one. Splatter. It can't be BTO without Turner. Well, let's find out. It's interesting he didn't mention any names. I'm going to go in here and see if there's anything new. How about that? Let me just go back and a few people. Well, my contact for BTO just gave me some information, but not on Randy. Hold on. Let's do this live. Let's just see what we've got. Hi. That's my son Chase. He's a great drummer. Okay. Doesn't say anything. It's just the announcement from 7 hours ago. Excuse me. So Randy hasn't put anything up yet. Let me see. Is anything new? Just a lot of people sharing it. And a lot of pictures of Randy and his son. So again, I'll show you the logo. Hold on, let me bring it up. There we go. That he released that this morning, and then he released this underneath it. BTO is back, and he only puts down. It's a very soft re-entering into the market with 2 shows. I'm sure many shows will, and there's a few weeks in between these, like almost a month. August 18th in Iowa and September 22nd in Massachusetts. So they're not exactly going on with a big tour. They're testing the waters. But judging from the fact that I received today, when this was rolling out, I received at least 50 emails via text on my phone, on Messenger, right? People just asking me, like, what do you know? What do you know? What do you know? Because they know that I interviewed Randy. But I'm getting a lot more here. Okay. Ronnie Parker says, it's a great day when you get a 70s band with a few original members back. Of course. Enjoy them when you can. Well said, Ronnie. Pookie Martinez, hey, who's left? We don't know yet. We know that Randy's coming back for sure. I have a source who told me it's going to be Randy, at least, and Tal Bachman, his son, because he's been touring with his son, and he is a Bachman, and so it's going to be at least them. Don't look for Blair Thornton. My guess is they haven't spoken in years. I could be completely wrong. If I get another interview with Randy in the next few days, hopefully we'll get clarity on that. Fred Turner's retired. Will he come back? Well, judging from these 2, look at this. Look at these 2 shows. They're like almost a month apart. Arnold's Park in Iowa, and then in Massachusetts at West Springfield, September 22nd. So there's a lot of time between those 2 shows, and this is the logo they brought up this morning. What does it look like? Well, it looks like they're testing the water. But again, I got so much response about this. People saying, get on the air and do something. Hold on. Let me just call a few people. And, because the Canadian music industry is a tight-knit little industry. And I've been in it for 40 years. So I know a few people, but it doesn't mean what I say every time is true. I'm just getting information from folks who say they know. And Pookie Martinez says Blair and CF, we don't know. Or Fred, he means Fred Turner. He used to go by CF when the band was really, really big. Darren says, it's amazing with the history of BTO that they have reformed and disbanded with different members, specific eras. You won't see that with CCR and John Fogerty. Well, that's done. The Keyboard Chronicles. Hey, nice to have you back. I look at reformations like this. These huge bands are effectively franchises. So even if they may not have the original members, it allows the live experience to continue on. I'm starting to go there a little bit more. I have to admit, I wasn't that open to it before. When I talked to Derek Sharp of the Guess Who, lead singer since, I think, 2008, might be 2006. I think it's 2008. And Gary Peterson, the original drummer, who, of course, talked about Randy in depth during the interview, and Burton Cummings. They, I see them out there just earning a living, doing the thing. They're not trying to deceive anybody. It's not like the Little River Band where it's weird to have those. I heard those guys will sign records that they weren't even on. That's a line that's crossed when that happens. You know, when I interviewed, for instance, Canadian band, when I interviewed Miles Goodwin of April Wine, Brian Greenway of the band, Jerry Mercer, their famous drummer, and Jim Clench, who may he rest his, Jim left us, and Jim joined BTO when Randy left for 2 albums. But when I interviewed them, I got them to sign. I got Brian Greenway to sign all the albums that he wasn't on because he's such an honorary member of that band and has made such a difference in that band that, Gary Moffat wasn't in the band anymore. I couldn't ask him. So I don't know. I thought that it was fine because they're so April Wine members, right? But when you're signing an album that you weren't on and you really weren't on any of the hits, that's a slippery slope to me. Just don't, at least look up and say, I wasn't on this album. Is it okay? Do you still want me to sign it? But then if you ask that question, how many times are you going to ask that question with a meet and greet? Like 100 times? You want to, after a while. So anyway, the word is, and what we know is, it's Randy Bachman and his son. We hear it's his son, Tal Bachman, at the very least. And he's a Bachman, so he can be in there. Not the guy who created the hits, but I mean, he did have a fairly big hit. She's So High, that I play on the radio, it seems, every single night at Move 103 in Vancouver, because I've been doing a show there since 1990. I'm one of the lucky ones. I've survived a lot of big cuts in layoffs and stuff like that. But anyway, I love doing my show. And She's So High comes up all the time. It's also a highly requested song. And I like Tal's music. So, I mean, it's a Bachman thing. Bachman. I always get her mixed up. But it is Bachman, even though most people say Bachman-Turner-Overdrive because it sounds better. Please don't argue with me. Randy told me himself. Okay? 3 times. Not because I had it wrong. Because I wanted him to say it so people could hear it. Right? Anyway. Yeah. I should... hold on. Can I do this? Do you want to hear that clip? Can I find it? Oh, it's not on that hard drive. Yeah. There's a really nice little clip of Randy telling me, I got to hook up a hard drive, folks. Just bear with me. We'll continue talking about this in a second, and I'll reiterate everything we said. But it'd be kind of cool if I could find it and play it for you. Since we're talking about that, I got on once and we were talking about Neil Peart, and so many people were saying it's Peart, it's this, it's that, and I'm going, I've talked to people who grew up with him. I've talked to people who actually knew him really, really well, and I've interviewed them on the show. And okay, here it is. Hold on, let me see if I can find it for you. It's kind of interesting. I'm doing this. I don't usually do this as I'm doing a radio show, but let me find it. I'm looking for something. It is probably under Randy Bachman. Hold on. Bear with me. It's worth it. I promise you. Here we go. I found it. Vertical. Okay, here we go. Can I do that?
When we signed with Mercury Records in Chicago, the head guy was German. His name was Charlie Fach, F-A-C-H, Fat. We call him Fach. So when he sent out our bio, he put Bachman-Turner, he put B-O-C-K so you could sell. In German, it's Bachman, right? It's like Bachman-Turner-Overdrive, that kind of. In England, it's real quick. It's Bachman-Turner-Overdrive. In Canada, it's Bachman, and in the States, it's Bachman. So I'm used to this name. I used to say, I'm Randy Bachman from Bachman-Turner-Overdrive. That kind of says it all.
Well, one last thing on that. Glenn, the lead singer of LRB, Glenn Shorrock, who's Glenn Shorrock in the U.S. I interviewed him. Kasim Sultan with Todd Rundgren. He says, everyone screws up my name. Bernie Ledden, I talked to him, and he says, everyone says lead until now. The Eagles are so freaking big. And then, of course, Glenn Fry. Glenn Frey. So it happens all the time, obviously.
How about Ray Davies? He says, my name is Ray Davis.
Yeah.
They don't do Ray Davies in England. When we signed with Mercury Records in Chicago, the head guy was German. His name was Charlie Foch, F-A-C-H, Fat. We call him Fatch. So when he sent out our bio, he put Bachman-Turner-Overdrive, he put B-O-C-K so you could sell. In German, it's Bachman, right? It's like Bachman-Turner-Overdrive, that kind of. In England, it's real quick. It's Bachman-Turner-Overdrive. In Canada, it's Bachman, and in the States, it's Bachman. So I'm used to this name. I used to say, I'm Randy Bachman from Bachman-Turner-Overdrive. That kind of says it all.
Well, one last thing on that. Glenn, the lead singer of LRB, Glenn Shorrock, who's Glenn Shorrock in the US. I interviewed him. Kasim Sultan with Todd Rundgren. He says, everyone screws up my name. Bernie Ledden, I talked to him, and he says, everyone.
There you go. Learn your software. The hell. I haven't used that in a little while, so I forgot. So it's Bachman. It's okay to say it Bachman. He says on some level he doesn't care. But his name is Bachman. I like Bachman better. I really do. Okay, let's talk to some people. Keyboard Chronicles, huge bands, franchises. Pookie Martinez, Grand Funk Railroad. There's another one. Yeah, but they're missing Mark Farner, who's like the biggest part of that band. Blues Time Griffiths. Do you know whatever happened to Randy Bachman Burton Cummings tour? It was supposed to resume after COVID. I don't know. I saw Burton like last week. He was really, really good. It looks like we might get an interview with him. Looks like it might happen. Vaughn Hogan Schmidt. Not for nothing, but Randy is very underrated and underappreciated. Darren says Bachman-Turner-Overdrive with Hal Bachman is like Van Halen with Wolfgang. I was thinking of that this morning. Yeah, Pookie Martinez. I don't think we could see a tour, but possibly a few shows. Who knows? Yeah, Bruce Allen's who we were talking about a while ago. Hey, Surf Boy from Boston. Thank you. Jerry on the radio. True. Pookie says John Fogerty and his two sons. A recent John, yes, still has it. Class of 78. Darren says, Pookie Martinez, yeah, I forgot that about John and his sons playing together. Keyboard Chronicles, yes. Requesting LRB. That line was unfairly crossed. Pookie says, they played at the beach. They were spot on. DJDAC. So far, looks like playing BTO hits with Randy. And also playing Guess Who hits with Burton. This will be a hard pass for me. James McKinley. Hey, John. Hi, James. You can ask Randy if you could invite Norman Durkee, the original keyboard player, the pizza. The guy of the pizza. Yeah. Darren says the Guess Who have some songs undone. Tal Bachman has songs like She's So High. Love your show. Thank you, Palm Batch Videos. Line Investigations Group. What about Fred? We don't know because he retired. If they're just doing a few shows, could he possibly? There's 3 kids cycling down there. They're very curious on what I'm doing, and they're in the front. I'm not sure. Yeah, they're looking right at me. I don't know. To them, they wouldn't know what I'm doing because I'm just some guy on a computer, you know. So I don't even have a light on. I have natural light. So they wouldn't even see a light. Okay, Pookie Martinez says, She's So High was popular on KROQ, 91X, KLOS in LA, San Diego. Jerry on the radio. Hey, John, I got the Ultimate Rock, classic rock at least once a day because they are the real deal. Oh, they work so hard. I love when they do the worst songs on the albums. There's one, I don't think they do this, but there's one thing I can't stand that people do, and we'll get back to BTO in a second, is when they say, Hotel California against Dark Side of the Moon. That's apples and oranges. Which one, I can understand someone saying which one's best, but it's just not a very scientific way of getting to a #1 album of all time, right? You just leave it on there. You put out the top 1,000 albums and let people vote. That's how we used to do it. And whoever wins, wins. Are they Chase's friends there? Oh, which seems too young. Oh, How do you say your last name? Phonetically write it down, Mark. People say your last name. Pookie says, everyone in England whose birth name is Michael, they're all called Mick. Really? Keyboard Chronicles, Randy is lying. It's actually pronounced Batchman. Okay. Rewind Investigations, no Mark, no Grand Funk. Wiley Live, Music Corner. Definitely super excited to see them. I think a lot of us are. I mean, instead of, me being on here and telling you someone died, we have a guy like Randy Bachman who, when I met him the first time, he had just lost all that weight. He said it was his daughter that encouraged him to lose the weight. He said that right away as he's walking in the studio. I remember my feeling like, oh my God, it's Randy Bachman. Wow. Hold on, I'll show you a picture. I think I can show you a picture. How do I do that? Okay. I should have these pictures in the key, so that I'm ready to rock and roll. Do I have it? Do I have it? Do I have it? There's so much clips from Randy Bachman. So many. Oh, here he is. Here he is. Here. I'm going to save it for you. And then you're going to see it in a second. Randy Bachman. And that's open. And I can bring it up. And you'll go, what? That is interesting. I hope you'll think that. Oh, wow. I think you'll find it interesting. Give me a second. I was the program director of the station back then. I look so different from the way I look now. I was management. Uh-oh. I'll show you the picture. I just found it on Facebook. I know you have to bear with me. Sorry. Jeez, where am I going with this? I can't seem to find where I put it. Oh, no, give me a second. Might be here. I don't know where I put it. Sorry. Nope, I don't know where I put it. Sorry, that was a waste of time. Okay, let's go back to the original thing, and then we're going to call it a day for you guys. I'm going to start doing more live videos. It's kind of nice. This is the bed. This is our bedroom. But it's got really good natural southern light. And that's why I don't look like a boot when I come on here. Ruben Kincaid Chilliwack. Well, really, it's Bill Henderson. We've got 1, 2, 3 interviews with Bill Henderson. I just started introing one today. I interviewed him, and he tells this great story. Okay, let me just swerve off for a second. So Bill Henderson, I think, was moving to Salt Spring Island. Correct me if I'm wrong, but one of those islands on the west side of British Columbia. And he's looking at this house, and the owner is in the house. So he's going through the house, and the owner asks him, so why do you want to live in my house? Why do you want to move here? And Bill says, well, I want to slow down. Bill Henderson wrote all those big Chilliwack hits. Most of them weren't hits in the U.S., but they had some. My Girl. And the old guy laughs at him when he says he wants to slow down. And Bill's going, what? What's so funny? He says, oh yeah, you're going to buy my house and you're going to continue doing everything at the exact speed you've always done it. And Bill thought, no way. And then Bill told me, he says, that's exactly what happened. I didn't slow down at all. I just continued doing my stuff at the speed I did it before. This time in a different house. I got to find that clip. That's a great clip. Chilliwack still tours. Henderson is amazing. He is. I've only seen him twice. What do we got? What do I think of the current Guess Who? I don't know. I was just mentioning a while ago that I was like talking to Derek Sharp and their vocalist since 2008, and I was talking to Gary Peterson, the original drummer for the Guess who says he's still learning how to play drums. He's funny. Derek did most of the talking, but I, not liking the fact that they're going out there and doing the Guess Who with not an original singer. But then talking to the guys, there's a part of me that goes, I'd probably go to the show and enjoy it, but they can't get booked in Canada because the booking agents won't work with them. I don't know if it's because of Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings, but they talk about it in the next clip that I'm going to put out. They did a show in Quebec last year or the year before. It was a huge show, but that was it. So yeah, we'll see what happens. So I'm going to reiterate what I said. Then I'm going to go out because I have to put a lot of videos up today. This is the emblem that Randy Bachman put up today. Harkens back, of course, to the original, and it says, "Look, back in overdrive," and that will be what they're doing. And then they release this. After many decades selling tens of millions of records, multi-platinum awards, Bachman-Turner-Overdrive is back with Back in Overdrive tour, and only 2 tour dates so far. That's going to change really fast. One in Iowa at Arnold's Park, August 18th, and then Massachusetts, West Springfield, September 22nd. And then he mentioned all the hits, and it's great to have them back. I think it's a really cool thing. I would buy tickets to this in a second. If Randy Bachman's in it, that's good enough for me. Hopefully it looks like Tal Bachman, his son, will be part of it. As we mentioned a while ago, the brothers have died, and I thought, from my understanding, the drummer Robbie Bachman owned the name. And he died on January 12th at 69. And then after that, Tim Bachman died at 71 on April 28th. So that leaves the way for him to use. Because my understanding was Randy Bachman's parents kind of told him, you have to have something for your brothers. And so they continued Randy Bachman-Turner-Overdrive with Jim Clench this time from April 1, right? And Jim's long gone, and Jim, anyway, had returned to April 1 for many years. So we'll get more dates. Will Fred Turner come back? He's in retirement. We don't know yet. I've reached out to Randy's camp. They're usually really, Coco, who handles most of the stuff, she's pretty good at getting back. And we'll let you know right away. And we'll get Randy on here to talk about what's going on. It's exciting, though. And good for us, to have Bachman-Turner-Overdrive come. When Randy talks about creating those songs, there's something really magic. And I don't always feel that in all the interviews. But as I said, I've talked to him twice. Once in person, the first one, live on air. And we gave him a half an hour. And it was cool. We played he was releasing his jazz album. And then it was really nice. I said, man, Randy, I wish I had more time to talk to you, but I'm like doing a live radio show and you've got to do a sound check. And he said, here's my number. I'm going to see the Shadows with Neil Young in England. When I come back, call me on this day. I'll be ready for you. And I went, wow, okay, good, thanks. And I called him and he was ready. And he said, John, yeah, we did I think about an hour interview. And then the third time I talked to him for almost 2 hours when we were living in Moncton on the East Coast. This is not even a year ago. And I asked him about that Shadow show with Neil Young. I said, how was that show, by the way? How was the guy that, he said, I remember you. He said, Neil couldn't go because he was having problems with his son because his son's special needs. He was having a bad time or something. And he ended up going, I forget who he told me he went with. But Randy is just one of the, you never think you're talking to Randy Bachman because he's just such an easygoing guy. You just feel like it's two guys talking. And that happens in some of the better interviews where you just feel like, oh, yeah, this is cool. We're having fun here. Okay. Is Cummings on board? No. He won't join a BTO thing because he was never in BTO. But they played BTO stuff together when they were Bachman, Cummings, Bachman, whatever they were. Okay, I think that's about it. Thank you for supporting us. Where's our logo? I should have our logo on here. There you go. Should always have our logo. So we are releasing a crazy amount of interviews in the next little while. Insane. Some old interviews that haven't seen the light of day since the 80s. Some I have done. Some my friend Steve Burgess has done. And if we get permission from Len Tucson, who gave me a Roger Daltrey interview backstage, you'll see. And Len's starting his own channel, so maybe he'll lend us some of his stuff so we could show you. His channel will feature a lot of stuff. Len's a radio legend out of Edmonton. He was my first boss. He was the hardest program director I ever had to work for. He was also the man who taught me the most. And we're still friends. We weren't always friends because he did fire me. But one day we were at a radiothon on TV, telethon, and he looked at me and he says, John, it's not personal. I still consider, you're still important to me. And I remember going, oh, all is forgiven. Okay, Len, I love you again. And I have ever since because he taught me so much. And that Studer reel-to-reel that's on my right-hand side, when I do the stuff downstairs, he sold me that $10,000 reel-to-reel for $1,000. That's the kind of guy Len is. Anyway, thanks everyone for coming on. We don't know if it's going to be anyone outside. Randy Bachman, and thank you for the super chat. Justiny, thank you. That's very, very kind. We don't get a lot of super chats anymore. I'm not sure if we're doing something wrong, but times are tough for a lot of people. So thank you for that. So as far as we know, it's Randy Bachman, and the biggest rumor I hear it's going to be Tal Bachman, his son, with him. Fred Turner's retired. We don't know if he's coming back, and we don't know who is going to be drumming. It might be a member of the Randy Bachman band. Oh, ciao, Woody. Ciao, Super Fuzzy Mama. Justiny, yes, Woody. Thank you very much for joining us. If there's any news that breaks, Shannon doesn't work outside the home anymore. So before I couldn't just jump on and start doing a live feed on something that's happening because I had my daughter. And as most of you know, she's autistic. She's 25, and she has to be in the same room as me because she has seizures. But now it's different. We can do this. So love you guys. Thanks for supporting the channel and all the goodies on how to support the channel. Please join our Facebook group. We're really trying to get that to 10,000, and we're a little ways away. I think we're at 3,400. It's important to us. Anyway, love you guys. Bye. John Beaudin, Rock History Music.